Okay. We're going through our, what I would call our late summer inspection to make sure that our colonies are queen right, and we're doing a little feeding with thin syrup, and from this point on we will do no inspections. We will never inspect for quality of a queen or whether the queen's presence. We just can't keep going on and on checking brood nests, so we're going to make a judgment on this inspection round, and then after this it'll only be about judging how heavy they are and whether they need any more feed. And I've seen some videos out lately that have good information on cluster size and size of the colony going into winter, and I thought I'd throw my 2 cents into the ring because we're approaching it a little different. Justin, would you get into the middle of this colony? I want to show you what's going on, Seth. This is not a large colony. Right now it's probably got, I don't know, if I had to count the frames of bees, I might call it 9 frames of bees. It's got maybe 3, 4, 5 frames of good brood like that. This is a good unit. This colony is going to overwinter with probably 6 frames of bees. And in our area, in the southern Appalachians, I consider that a really excellent size of a colony. Let's look in this one too, John.
Yeah.
This one's not too far off of that one. They aren't huge colonies, and I don't want huge colonies, and I know that sounds crazy, but I'm not pollinating in California anymore. I'm not trying to shake packages in mid-March much.
Right.
We might do a few, but I just don't need massive colonies. This thing right now, you got, what do you got? How many of those you got?
I got several.
1, 2, 3. He's got 4 frames just like that right now. And this colony is going to overwinter probably as a 7 to an 8 frame colony. You know, on a tight cluster on a cold winter day might be 5 or 6 frames, and that's really the size I'm looking for. Now, the colonies in this yard are produced with queens that we made. We grafted off of our artificially inseminated Caucasian breeder queens. So there's a lot of Caucasian in here. There's some Carniolan, a little bit of Italian left over from the past. So it's kind of a hodgepodge of things. But when we've been in a bunch of bee yards already today, and we have yards where I was using Chris Werner's queens, the colonies are a little larger than this. Wouldn't you all agree that his queens are giving us larger colonies, especially in a double deep where they have plenty of room to lay? And there was a time then that would have been very attractive to me, but right now this is more attractive because this thing will overwinter on a lot less food. It's a lot easier to work a single, believe it or not, although I prefer double deeps for, you know, splitting and
yes,
and having enough food to get through winter and all that stuff. But I really love these singles that are just going to overwinter with 6 to 7, maybe 8 frames of bees. We'll have an occasional colony that'll be 5 frames, but they've all got queens from this summer. They appear to be extremely healthy. We're seeing 0 brood issues. They went through several mite treatments. The rims that are coming off the colonies, you can see the rims, those were put on there for Apiguard treatment, so we had that space for the Apiguard on top of the top bars. It's kind of like they shut down for a week or 2 while the Apiguard was on them, and now they're back laying brood like crazy. Goldenrod pollen is just starting to come in. It's all over the place, starting to bloom. And I just wanted to, I guess I'm just trying to state, depending on where you live, you don't have to have 14 frames of bees to overwinter. Yep. I'm going to be real happy with these singles that are just 6 to 8 frames of bees, a fairly new queen, well fed, real healthy. That's the unit I'm shooting for. That's my preferred unit for this winter, and we got a bunch of them. We've got a few yards that are a little compromised in size because they got a little pesticide exposure, but even those yards are brooding quite nicely. We're feeding them some of this thin syrup. They got this brand new goldenrod and helianthus pollen coming in, and they have good brood patterns too.
Oh yeah.
And even though they're only maybe 4 or 5 frames of bees right now, I think those will overwinter fine too.
They had good.
Yeah, younger queens, good brood patterns. I think even with that 4 or 5 frames of bees we'll be okay.
Yeah.
Because they're so healthy now. Like, they're over that pesticide problem that happened, you know, a month or 2 ago. This is a good yard of bees. We're near Rabun Gap, Georgia, almost to North Carolina. This is considered the Southern Appalachian Mountains. We do have a winter. It's not like Louisiana where Justin lives, where I'm not sure he knows what winter is down.
He knows what that means.
But then, you know, somebody in Minnesota, his wife's from Minnesota, she tell us, you guys don't know what a winter is.
Right, yeah.
Right.
So it's all relative, you know. This little 5 to 8 frames of bees might not be great in Minnesota, but here in western North Carolina and northeast Georgia, I think it's the perfect unit. Okay, let's see what this one looks like, Seth. Kind of looks like the others. That's not even fully drawn out, though.
We got some comb we can stick in there.
That's all larvae and eggs, isn't it? Yeah, it looks good. What's the next
Filling
one?
up wherever.
What's the next frame look like?
The hole.
Yeah, this one.
Eggs.
It's full of eggs and larvae, so she's
There
starting
we go.
back a little later than them other ones. Apigar definitely shuts them down. Oh yeah, that doesn't look too bad. Not quite as nice as those others, but it'll be fine. One thing I forgot to mention is that the Carniolans and Caucasians overwinter with a little smaller cluster generally than the Italians do. So this one looks like a pretty good unit too. Let's look at this one, see what this one looks like. Actually, they all look good in this yard. You haven't seen a bad one yet, have you? We run across a few duds going through these yards just before fall starts. It's inevitable. After treatments and after having pulled the honey earlier, you always lose a queen or two when you're pulling honey, and this is our chance to have given them enough time to where if they raised a new queen, she should be laying. Yeah, that's a beautiful pattern, and the camera won't show it, but that's all full of brand new larvae. Let's see one more, see how they're doing. Looks like they got some good pollen on the perimeter too.
Dark bees too.
Yeah. Dark bees, yeah. Full of, oh
The other
yeah.
way.
Well, that was full of larvae. Full of eggs. Yeah, lots of pollen. Yeah, those are dark bees. So that's mostly the Carniolan Caucasian. I don't know if the camera's going to show this or not. So looking pretty dark there. We just got it better. Yeah. Yeah, I like the dark bees. There's nothing wrong with the Italians. It just doesn't suit my current situation. I don't need mass clusters in winter. They just eat a lot of food and start rearing brood a little earlier than suits me. I'm not putting them down. I'm just saying all these different races of bees have a different place. And now that I'm staying put in the southern Appalachians, we do not move. We do not pollinate in California. None of that other stuff. I think these darker races of bees suit me much better. And we don't want to, let's get that grass off. Yeah, we don't want to be making splits super early or anything like that. These colonies will overwinter on a lot less food than colonies with more Italian genetics. Go ahead.
Might like, hey, if your pollen hadn't started yet, they're not going to be slabs of brood like that. Because I know, like in my area, it's quite a bit spottier.
Oh yeah, yeah. You do, and you do have goldenrod, right?
Yeah, yes.
It's just, what is it? Another 2 or 3 weeks off yet?
Yeah, probably the middle to the end of September.
Yeah.
It'll come in.
Now he's down way down south in Louisiana, so it's a little different. You know, if it wasn't for goldenrod, it'd be harder for us to get these colonies through winter. That late pollen is so important for us. Yeah, that looks...
Yeah, it looks pretty good.
I'd say so. Nice solid pattern. Yeah.
Alright.
Yeah. So we're making kind of a judgment on each colony on whether it needs to be fed or not. So far this whole yard's gotten 1 gallon buckets. Occasionally we're using a 2 gallon on a single. We're not trying to plug them out right now. We're just trying to keep them stimulated, little food going in. The time for really making them heavy is still about 2 or 3 weeks away. After the goldenrod's done, they will slow down on brood rearing, and we'll begin to backfill the brood nest as they shrink that nest, get some more weight in there. Yeah. These are these rims we're using with the Equalizing treatment. It's just leftover plywood scrap from making other things. 1.25 inches high. I think that's about the best height for Equalizing rim. Also, we use them if we have to feed pollen patties. Although we rarely feed pollen patties, I only do it if I feel like I really have to. Again, I don't want to stimulate the bees too early and have a bunch of big colonies too early. So the only time I use pollen substitute is when I have small colonies that really need some help making it through.
Is that helianthus?
That's helianthus, yeah.
Okay. All right, keep.
Yeah, bees are working the heck out of it.
Big time.
Big time. So we've got two kinds of pollen coming in right now. This helianthus, which is a yellow, and the goldenrod, which is also kind of yellow, but it's orange too. Orangey yellow?
Yeah.
Yeah. But this is the yellow, so we've been seeing right here. And it's kind of a good time because we got two pollens coming at once. I don't know if the camera will pick it up, but if you look down that row right there, you can see the goldenrod poking out. It's just barely starting to bloom. Okay, so, all right, so this yard right here is mixed. It's half pretty good strong colonies, singles that made a soup or two of honey during sourwood, and the other half are late nukes that really didn't develop into full-blown colonies before the sourwood it was over. So I want to do some equalizing. When you run across and it should be pallet by pallet. The good ones should all be on, you know, a pallet together. When you run across a good pallet, go ahead and keep track of that. So when you run across a weaker pallet, we can pull some brood out of the strong ones and put in the weaker ones. I know we usually do a lot of equalizing in the spring, but we're also going to do a little bit this fall with these combinations of weak, strong colonies. John, I think you probably got a strong colony
It's
right
a good
there.
one. Yeah, they were bearded out. I've been smoking them back in.
Yeah.
Sorry.
No, that's okay. But I know the last time I was here, I saw at least 2, maybe 3 pallets of weaker colonies. And so what we want to do is give sealed and preferred, if you can find any brood that has hatching bees, literally hatching bees, that would be the one to give them. If not, make sure it has sealed brood. And I can hear thunder in the distance. Is that what I'm hearing?
Yes, sir.
Yeah, so, okay, let's see
You
if
know
we
what they say about that?
What do they say about thunder?
Real beekeepers do it in the rain.
Right. Real beekeepers do.
I was waiting for it.
We should mention that quite often in a yard with long rows, you get the strongest colonies on the ends, especially on the corner. And that's probably what happened in this case.
Yeah.
You know, Seth's got, well, you got one of them weaker ones, don't you?
It's all right. I wouldn't call it weak, but it's not
Okay.
big either.
Right.
Anyway, a lot of times you can brag about the colony making 6 supers, and if you look closely, sometimes those are the colonies on the end, and the ones in the middle only made 2 or 3 supers. It's because they get a lot of drift on the ends. Those bees come in loaded, and they go to the first place that'll let them in the door, and that's probably why this one's so much stronger than the other one. All right, John, see if you can find a frame or 2 of extra brood. I'd be happy with 3 broods left behind in a colony like that, and anything beyond that, we'll give it away to some of these weaker ones. How many frames of brood you got there, Seth? It's probably big enough to make it, actually. And let's just see for sure. I'd like to see more than just 2 frames of brood.
Yeah. Oh yeah, yeah, yeah. For sure.
There's one. Okay, that's enough. That's all we got to see. That's strong enough. That one has built up probably on the feed bucket we gave him. And yours looks pretty good too.
Yeah, I had 4 in here.
That's plenty big enough, yeah. So you have bees hatching on that?
Oh, yes, sir.
Literally hatching out of the cells right now?
They're coming out. Yes, sir.
Yeah, that's perfect. And I see a lot of baby bees too. So this is a good frame to donate to a small colony.
Okay.
Well, that's one of the small ones, Seth. Maybe they've all grown up a little bit and they'll be okay. Decent frame.
I got like 6 frames of brood here.
Okay, You got 6 frames of brood. Let's leave them with 3. Take 3 good ones out of there.
Okay.
I got 3.
You got 3?
4 actually.
4. They're good enough. I'm happy with that. They'll make it through winter. 4 frames of brood. No problem. Hey John, these are turning out better than I thought. Maybe just pull 2 frames of brood out, lean it against the side.
Okay. All
Yeah.
right.
John's really good at spotting queens, so that's a major thing. You got to make sure you don't take the queen and give her away. Okay, that would have been one of the better ones. Not quite as strong as this, but
Right. It's still okay.
still okay. We could probably slip a brood out of that if we needed it. Or not.
I know.
That should have been brood right there. Maybe we're queenless, huh?
They might be.
You should be seeing brood. Here's another. Look at these little knobby drone little
Right,
thing.
yeah,
Yeah, there's
little-
a problem here.
There's something going
Look at
on.
one more frame, but I think you got a dud right there.
Huh. What is this? That was like weird.
It fooled me. You know, they can fool you.
Oh,
just
dude, you can
just looking
watch
at the
them
quantity of bees can fool you. You know, if they just went queenless a few weeks back. And
You think you got a good colony?
yeah, you know what I think, John? Because we're going to have a lot of drift from that when we take it away.
Okay.
They're going to drift over to this one colony that's left on this pallet. So let's just when we get the hose out to feed, let's sprinkle some syrup on top of this and just put that box over here.
Okay.
And this colony will sit alone here. And some of those nukes out at the Walmart yard,
Okay.
we can bring them here.
Okay.
We can populate the dud spots here.
All right. So, okay.
Yeah. That one looks a little small.
Yeah, they.
Although they've been fooling me.
I know, because now you got the way they brood now.
Okay, how many frames like that you got?
I think 3, 1.
Yeah, it's kind of small.
Okay.
Full of eggs, right?
Yep.
Yeah, okay, let's give them one of those hatching broods from that
Okay,
other colony.
alright.
That should send them on their way.
Yeah, they'll be.
That plus the syrup, thin syrup we're giving them, plus the pollen
That
that's coming
pollen.
in, that thing will be big enough for winter. You got a small one too, Seth?
Oh, I don't know. It's got right at 3.
Is that dark frame got brood on it too, that one?
Which one?
Darker frame? Yeah, is that brood?
I think so.
Oh yeah, it's full of eggs. Yeah, that's big enough. That'll make it. Well, they're just not quite as small as I thought they were. That's a good thing.
Yeah, brood
Oh, yeah. Yeah, that'll make it through winter just like that. Okay, we're in western North Carolina. We went through this yard about 10 days ago, checking all the queens, making sure everybody was ship shape. And now it's just feeding. We don't even have to look inside. We're not even popping the lids. We're just putting buckets on. You can see Seth there. He's just kind of hefting to see how heavy each colony is. That's one of the benefits of having these things on an individual bottom board and not a pallet. It's very easy to tell if they're heavy enough. If they're of medium weight, they'll get a 2 gallon. If they're getting sort of heavy, they'll get a 1 gallon. It's possible there might be 1 or 2 that doesn't get anything, but I doubt it. I think everything needs a little weight added on now. We're switching to 1-to-1 syrup now. We're off of the real thin stuff. It's mid-September. We want to be done feeding within a month. Have them all really, really heavy. I often say if it doesn't feel like a box of rocks, you're not done feeding yet. My thoughts are to get them really well fed before they shut down for the winter, and then not have do anything to them in the winter. No lid popping of any kind. Just leave them alone. Let them be quiet. And then we'll get back into them in the early spring, late winter, perhaps when the maple trees are blooming and the pollen's starting to come in. And then we can check them and see who made it, which queens are still alive, and so on.